Whether you're a lifetime resident of Cape Cod or just visiting for your first time, you know that the Cape is legendary for its great seafood and especially its tasty shellfish. While you can visit the many restaurants that offer great seafood options, maybe you should consider fishing for your very own fresh-caught shellfish. Shellfishing is a fun activity that the whole family will enjoy.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Fisher. I'm the Director of Natural Resources for the town of Mashpee. Today, we'll be discussing the shell fishery in our town and the rules and regulations that are associated with it.
All people engaged in shell fishing in the town of Mashpee must have on them a Mashpee permit or a tribal ID. For a permit, the resident taxpayer family permit costs $25. If you are out-of-town non-resident / a taxpayer or a family member, it is $80 for a permit. If you are over the age of 62 years, your permit will cost $6. That is the senior citizen family shellfish permit. All Massachusetts veterans have the same rate as the Mashpee taxpayer.
All commercial permits are issued to Mashpee residents. They must be 16 years of age and older to obtain a permit.
To obtain your license, go to the Mashpee Town Hall or call 508-539-1439 or go to www.mashpeema.gov/town-clerk.
You can find shellfish gear such as the gauge, such as a rake, or a peck basket at any marine supply store. If you cannot find a gauge when harvesting quahogs, the rakes have a 1-inch width between the prongs. If anything falls through when you pull it up, you know it is too small to keep. This rake here is used for aquaculture purposes for harvesting seed. Rakes will normally not have this mesh, should just be the metal.
Shellfish may be taken by hand, short-handled clam rake, hand trowel, garden variety, spade fork, plunger, dip net, scroucher, or potato rake, basket rake, or bull rake. Bull rakes are not permitted within family shellfish areas. While harvesting shellfish within a family area, using a rake that is longer than 15 inches in width is prohibited.
In order to harvest a soft-shell clam, they must be 2 inches in the longest dimension. So this inside of the gauge is 2 inches. That one sits right on top, so you can keep it. This soft-shell clam is too small. It fits through the gauge, so you have to throw it back. So this soft-shell clam can be kept, this one cannot.
When you're harvesting soft-shell clams, be sure to fill your holes back in. People can fall and potentially get injured.
When harvesting quahogs, they must have a 1-inch shell thickness. You can check that with your gauge. This quahog would be legal to harvest. It does not slip through the gauge. A quahog like this size slips through the gauge, cannot be kept. In that case, you should just throw them back to let them grow. When harvesting scallops, they must have a well-defined growth ring.
And razor clams must be at least 4 inches long.
So our oyster harvest season is probably one of the most popular seasons here in Mashpee. The oyster limit is 1 level peck per week, and the size of a legal oyster is 3 inches. You can use the same gauge that we use to measure our quahogs and our soft-shell clams, and I'll just show you how to do that. Here we have a legal oyster, which you can harvest, and it is 3 inches in length. So you want to do the entire length of the gauge. If it is shorter than this gauge, like this oyster here, this is not legal, and you must throw it back into the water so it can do its job to remove that nitrogen that we're trying to accomplish here in Mashpee.
Any person partaking in shellfishing must display their catch to any shellfish constable.
The commercial catch limits are as follows. Soft-shell clams, 2 bushels per day. Quahogs, 3 bushels per day. Scallops, while they're in season, 10 bushels per day except Wacoya Bay. 1 bushel per week, October 1st through October 15th, and 5 bushels per day, October 16th to March 31st. For razor clams, 1 bushel per day, mussels, 1 bushel per day, and surf clams, the limits are set by the Division of Marine Fisheries and they can be found on their website. A bushel is defined as equal to 4 pecks, or the equivalent of 40 quarts. The northern section of Hamlin Pond is prohibited to the taking of shellfish. You can see signage on the water of the actual closure line. The northern section of Jehu Pond remains open. So we're here at one of our smaller family shellfish areas in Hamlin Pond. You go down Monomoskoye Road and it's off a side dirt road called Hamlin Pond Road Extension. There's a pathway to water. This is a right-of-way. There's 2 parking spots here and you can walk down this path to our family shellfish area. So Chapter 91 does require that all new installed docks have an egress for navigation and fishing. So as you can see, this dock, you can pass underneath of it to access our family shellfish area.
So, the yellow ball markers designate a shellfish propagation or shellfish aquaculture area. In this area in specific, we have shellfish predator nets that our quahog seed lays under. So it's important not to rake in those areas because you might rip the nets.
Mashpee Neck Landing family area is located at the end of Mashpee Neck Road, and the family area is to the left of the ramp. People can park here after November 1st free of charge.
We're at the Mashpee Neck family area for shellfishing, specifically for oysters. It's open from November 1st to March 31st each year.
So if you are caught harvesting oysters within the months after March 31st, you will be fined in the amount of $300. We take this very seriously. It is not safe to harvest from this area in the summer months. All marina proppers within the town of Mashpee are closed during their high months, and those signs are posted in the areas that are closed. In Little River, either side, this whole area is closed to shellfishing, and the signs will be taken down once it opens in the fall. The Great River family area is located off of Great Oak Road. You want to take a right at the town landing, the Great River boat launch, and then you walk to the left of the launch, and the family area extends all the way down to the second to the last dock.
The culvert under Secaucen Island Road is closed year-round to shellfishing, 100 feet to either side of the road.
So here we are at Willswork Road. This is another public access point. It is not deemed as a family area or a commercial area, therefore both are allowed in this area to harvest shellfish. So the town of Mashpee has a long-standing agreement with the town of Falmouth that the Wacoya Bay proper remain open for both Falmouth and Mashpee permit holders. This does not include Little and Great River or Sage Lot Pond. So at this point where we are now, where Great River opens up into Little River in Great River, that area is not open to Falmouth shellfish. A commercial shellfishing week begins at sunrise on Sunday and ends at sunset the following Saturday, 7 days per week, from December 1st through March 31st, except for the commercial scalloping week, which begins at sunrise on Monday and ends at sunset the following Saturday, 6 days a week. A commercial shellfishing week begins at sunrise on Monday and ends at sunset the following Saturday, 6 days a week, from April 1st through November 30th. All persons shall read or have the regulations read to them and understand them before they go shellfishing. The Shellfish Constable will make every attempt to post and maintain signage along the shoreline regarding special status designations or regulations for that specific area. All regulations, rules, special conditions, closures, and actions taken by the Board of Selectmen will be posted in the office of the Town Clerk, the office of the Board of Selectmen, and the Police Department, a minimum of 48 hours before they go into effect, unless designated as an emergency closure. Those emergency closures will be posted on kiosks on the shoreline. Please pay attention to these closures and postings before you go shellfishing. Any person who violates any provisions of the Mashpee Shellfish regulations may be punished with a written warning or a fine of $50. Penalties for contaminated area closures violations include fines upwards of $300 or imprisonment of 3 years in state prison. The privilege of obtaining and possessing a Mashpee shellfish permit issued by the Board of Selectmen under the authority granted to them by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts may be suspended, revoked by the Board of Selectmen for any violation of the Mashpee shellfish regulations. All shellfishing areas are open 7 days a week unless specified otherwise by any other provision or designation found elsewhere in the Mashpee shellfish regulations. Anybody who's caught shellfishing within a shellfish aquaculture lease who is not authorized will be subject to fine and citation. Boaters beware, do not travel within aquaculture lease sites that are marked with these yellow markers. The gear that is suspended or on the bottom could potentially harm your vessel. The Town of Mashpee Board of Selectmen also have the ability to temporarily close areas that are used for shellfish propagation. In compliance to the Comprehensive Watershed Nitrogen Management Plan, areas within our abatements are closed for the growth of our 10 million quahogs and 1 million oysters that we purchase each year. Scuba diving for the purposes of taking shellfish is prohibited in all areas except for Nantucket Sound. Snorkeling and skin diving for shellfish is allowed in all approved swimming areas of the Town of Mashpee. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you learned something about the Mashpee shellfishery. Please look at our website for any further information or questions you may have at mashpeema.gov under the Natural Resource section. You may also reach us at our town office line at 508-539-1439. Thank you.